Hello, welcome to my grandpa's train. I'm over on the HO scale layout today. It's been quite a while since I've done anything in HO scale, and it's time to get some of these projects that I've been delaying finished up here. This is one of them. So this I found quite a while ago at a train show, and this is a metal old-time steam locomotive. Now I'm going to unwrap it, and we will see if we can get it to operate. This is a Bay River Railway. This is a all metal tender, and this has the motor inside actually, so it's a tender drive. We have part of the drive shaft here. And this is the locomotive for it. And we have a piece of a drive shaft or something. Looks like this was hodgepodge together. Some shrink tube, piece of aluminum, and plastic drive shaft. This engine is missing the boiler, and I have not noticed that before, so I don't know what happened there. I'll have to look around and see if it fell out of the package. And it is actually, you can see it says it's made in Tokyo, Japan. So this is United Scale Models. Now I have no idea if this is going to run. It probably will not. From what I understand, it needs some work done on the motor. I found this quite a while ago at a swap meet and discovered that it's actually a brass locomotive made in Japan. I've never had any locomotive quite like this before, and I'm going to attempt to get it to work. As you can see, the headlight works quite well. What we're going to do first is get the motor to work. Looks like a pretty standard Pittmann style motor, so that should be easy enough to get going again. Should be just remove the screws, tune up the motor. There is no boiler front to this locomotive, and I don't know why. So I will have to see if I can find one or maybe fabricate something, even though it won't quite match, just to fill that in. So this locomotive was manufactured by United in Japan. Let's get into this and get the motor going again. Okay, let's get into the tender. And underneath here I can see right off the bat there are 4 screws holding the shell onto the frame, which means it should be pretty easy to get into. Let's see if we can get a little better view here. Oh, I think I need a smaller screwdriver. Let's see if this one fits. Here we go. These are pretty tiny. I'm going to get a little tray so I don't lose them. I got 3 screws out in this one here. Well, so that was pretty easy. The shell came right off. There's an antique piece of tape in there, I'm assuming to keep the motor from shorting out. And let me see, get that screw put over there. Okay, so this is an actual Pittmann motor. It even says so right there. That's pretty neat. So let's get the motor out. I guess I'll warm up my soldering iron here. Okay. And our motor came right out. Ooh, right away I can see we've got problems with this motor. Looks like there's a winding that's disconnected. There we go. Alright, our frame has been separated. Yep, pretty greasy in there. Lots of carbon dust in the frame and shell, so that'll clean that up a little bit. I'll get these brushes off of here. This is a very tiny motor. A lot of the Pittmanns I'm used to working on are bigger. Alright, there's our spring. Actually, it's kind of a neat little design. It's almost like a little pin spring. And then there's these 2 little phenolic plastic doodads that press opposite on the brushes. And just a single spring design. Very nice. So here's one brush. I think somebody put way too much oil in it because the whole commutator is Looks greasy. Looks like it's been covered in oil. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but that commutator is slimy. It looks like it's been covered in a layer of carbon dust and oil. So that is not good. We'll get that cleaned up, and that should hopefully bring this motor back to life. I'm going to check all the windings to make sure they are not shorted. Looks like this is just a standard 5-pole motor. So we'll get this cleaned up and be right back. This motor is probably shot. I can actually see, and again, it may not show up on camera, but yep, there's a broken winding here on this side. There's another one broke over here. That's a problem. Guess I will still tone it out and see if it works, but I doubt this motor is going to come back to life. I could look and see if I've got another one of these armatures floating around, which I might, but probably what I will do is put a different motor in this. Actually, I have a really nice motor that would probably make this a fine running locomotive, so I might just do that. We'll see. I hate to throw out these nice little Pittmann motors. Let me look in my collection, see what I've got though. Alright, well, it looks like I do have something that might possibly work. So I have this motor, which is the correct size. And I think this one is good. It's a lot cleaner, that's for sure. Or I have these, and these are, I picked up at a train show. I think these are actually brand new Ken motors. These are Mabuchi motors, so I guess these are halfway decent. I got two of those. I might use these in a different project. Or I have this. This is a Ken motor that's actually built for Mantua. So I don't have any other engines for this to go into. This would be a fine quality motor for a brass locomotive. I don't think I'm going to use these. I have another project for these. So it's either going to be this motor, which will probably be my first choice. And if I can't get this one to work, then I will attempt to install the Ken motor here. So all that I have to find is a spring that will work on this. Actually, I think I can steal the brush spring holder piece off the broken motor, and then I should have a complete motor here. Alright, I'll go put this together and see if it comes to life. Alright, going with this motor seems to be the right choice. It works, and very well. It seems to be in excellent health. Yes, the other motor had a burnt out winding, so unfortunately I can't do anything with that. This motor had a screw that held the magnet in that was way too long. I actually found a matching screw that it's the perfect size. This frame only has one threaded hole, whereas the old one had two and was held in on both sides. This motor was complete except for the little brush holder springs. I like this design. That's I might actually be able to replicate that too out of plastic. So I stole the spring and the brush clips, I guess, off of the broken motor, and we will be able to install this one. This one is also made in Japan and is a copy of the Pittmann design. But since our locomotive is made in Japan, I think this is a perfect choice for it. So I'm going to give this some oil, test it out, and we will get ready to install into the tender. I'm going to oil it up here. Let that get worked in a little. Then put a bit back there. There's that oil sponge. I think it needs more oil. Alright, so this motor has been taken all the way apart so that I could drill a new hole so that I could mount it in the locomotive correctly. And I test ran it once before, and we'll test it again. This thing has excellent, excellent low speed control. It's really hard to see on camera, but I mean, I have the throttle basically as low as it'll go over here. That is precision right there. Now, one thing I also had to do is up on the top, these teeny tiny little brush holder clips. These are made of phenolic board and they are very fragile. So I actually created a new one out of sheet styrene plastic. This is actually clear. Some of the sheet styrene I had was too floppy, flimsy, so I used some scratched up old window plastic. Made it out of this material here, actually, and it I traced out the one good one, and now I have a working motor. So let's put this in the frame and see if it will go. So we have the new screw will go in on this side, which is actually this old one. So that is a 256 screw. So then I'll put our washer on the other side instead. So we'll go a little something like that. Oh, I think this will work just dandy. And then our screw in. Wow, that is amazing. All right, I'm going to get these wires soldered in. All right, I'm going a little bit out of order here, actually. At this point, the locomotive is pretty well complete and ready to run. I have lubricated everything in the drive shaft. So there's a new piece of drive tubing here. This drive shaft was actually seized up in these two bearings because it was a little bit rusty. And that is probably one of the causes that burned out the original motor, is that that was completely seized up. Or it was seized up so it was very, very stiff to turn. So what I ended up doing is I had to desolder this end of it and slide the drive shaft all the way out. And then I was able to take it out and polish it with very, very fine grit, I think 600 grit sandpaper. And then use Brasso to polish it a little bit further. I also polished the insides of these bushings here and here. And now the drive shaft spins as freely as it should, because with these brass locomotives, any binding will be very hard on the motor. This gear down here is not brass. It is, I believe, a piece of phenolic plastic. So that is a little bit fragile, so I have to be very careful with that. Next thing I have to do, and I'll probably end up doing this off camera so I can focus real close on it, is these pieces that decorate over top of the, call them kind of like wheel wells or something, but these, I guess, fenders maybe, all four of them are broken off because of doing a little bit of work underneath the motor. So these will be resoldered on. I'm going to do that next. All right, there it is, the frame all the way stripped down, and I have resoldered these four metal bands that go around the drive wheels. Alright, it's the next day, and it's still a rainy weekend, so perfect to continue working on a brass locomotive. And a lot has been done off camera, which is the way it goes. So, I still have to figure out what I'm going to do for the boiler front. I'll have to see if I can find some brass that I can manufacture a boiler front for that, or just leave it without one for now. Well, progress has been made, and the brass locomotive has been put back together and is operational. So, just to recap everything that was done to it, had to replace the motor in the tender, put a new rubber drive tube from the tender to the locomotive, and then I polished and lubricated the drive shaft, and all of the wheels have been cleaned and polished. I repaired the wire going to the headlight, and now this old-time locomotive is ready to run. It's not very heavy, it's not very strong. If I put too much weight on it, the motor will get very hot, so I don't want to do that. But it'll pull about 4 cars, which is probably appropriate for a locomotive of this type anyways. I have some old-time real wood box cars hooked up to the HO locomotive here, and we'll see how she does.